Yesterday it got clear that the thing I'm working on is not working. If you have seen the footage so far, it was all for nothing. Hi, my name is Martina. I am a portrait artist based in Austria, and in this video I am going to show you what I created for Lioba Brückner's challenge. Stay tuned! So I am so excited to be part of this amazing opportunity, and yesterday I was scrolling through Instagram and I was seeing that post of Lioba's and Maria's challenge, and I was so excited. So I decided to participate in this challenge, and I think it's going to be really great. And I was so excited that I started to do some mock-up, and the only problem is I was thinking after that I did half of her upper body, so I decided to write Maria, and Maria wrote me really soon back, and she told me that only her face should be featured, or like in the sketch and in the reference that Lioba was providing to us. So today I have to do another mock-up. Yesterday night I have given it all my thought, and I thought about putting some colibris in the picture. I think this would look really nice, and what I'm trying to do is to do some hands as well. I hope it's rule conform to do a little bit of this part with hands. I am really excited, so stay tuned.
I am now beginning with my very first watercolor layer. When painting portraits, I usually start the skin with a blue wash. At first glance, this might seem unusual, but it has a very clear purpose. It helps prevent the final painting from turning too reddish or too brown, keeping the complexion balanced and luminous. This blue base also gives me a foundation on which I can later build the shadows, expanding them with more layers of blue to create greater depth and atmosphere. Once this foundation is set, I begin to bring the warmer colors, soft shades of yellow, delicate reds and tender pinks, layering them over the areas that were initially painted blue. The interplay between the warm and the cool tones creates subtle variations that makes the skin come alive. In the shadows, I carefully darken the tones, but only slightly, never too much at once, so that the natural lightness and glow of the skin remain intact. At times I add a touch of brown to enrich the palette, but in the early stages I keep this use very restrained. After working on the skin, I move on to the hair. Here I usually apply brown directly. In hindsight, I sometimes wish I had begun with a blue underpainting in the hair as well, since it would have allowed the colors to blend more harmoniously and created a greater unity across the portrait. To make sure I don't lose the initial sketch as I build up further watercolor layers, I go back in and very lightly reinforce a few key outlines. I focus on the most important areas: the eyes, eyebrows, the shape of the nose and the corners of the mouth. With these anchors in place, I gradually begin to develop the features more carefully, refining the eyes and the mouth in particular. For the dark areas, I never use black straight from the tube. Instead, I prefer to mix my own grays and deep tones by combining complementary colors. This not only creates richer, more natural shadows, but also keeps the palette more harmonious overall. The only place I do use black is in the pupils. Yet, interestingly, as the watercolor layers build up, I often notice that the pupils begin to take a strange, glowing quality, as though they were shining with a demonic light. I don't quite know why this happens, but it seems to occur whenever the paint layer becomes thicker and more complex. Rather than pure black, I usually mix my own dark tones with blue, brown and violet, which adds depth and nuance. At this stage, I continue developing the face with darker skin tones. This is the moment when the portrait enters what I like to call the ugly stage. In watercolor, this stage tends to last a long time. It's the phase when the work looks awkward, unbalanced, sometimes even discouraging. But I've learned to keep going. The key is persistence, layer after layer, pushing through the discomfort, trusting that the painting will eventually come together. Beside me, I always keep my reference image, my own mock-up, which I use as a guide especially for values, to play of light and dark. In this particular piece, my goal is to move a little closer to abstraction than I usually do, while still holding on a touch of realism. For that reason, I decided to keep the hands in composition. I found the combination with the hummingbird to be a striking concept, one that added balance and a sense of poetic resonance to the painting. As the process goes on, I gradually build darker and darker tones, giving the portrait more structure and weight. At this stage, the hands still look awkward, even strange, but I accept that as a part of the long unfolding of the work. Watercolor, after all, requires patience and time. Once I'm satisfied with the watercolor layers, I transition into working with gouache. For both watercolor and gouache, I mainly use Schminke Horadam line. Though for watercolor, I also bring in Daniel Smith and Winsor Newton. Gouache allows me to shift the painting into a slightly different register. With it, I can embrace a more abstract quality using visible brush strokes that are subtle but intentional, strokes that give the portrait more character, individually and texture. When the gouache layers are complete, I move on to colored pencils. Here I use a combination of Faber-Castell Polychromos, Caran d'Ache, Luminance and Derwent Lightfast. With the pencils I build the details slowly and deliberately, refining the shapes and values and bringing the painting closer and closer to my reference image.
Hi guys! If you have seen the footage so far, it was all for nothing. Yesterday I posted a progress picture of the painting in the Facebook group. Then it got clear that the mock-up and the painting I did to this point wasn't allowed by the rulings. And yesterday it got clear that the thing I'm working on is not working, and I was thinking the whole night of how to tackle this. I am giving myself another chance. It's the third time doing a mock-up, but I think now I'm not doing a crazy mock-up. I was just thinking to get a nice border because it has to be collage. So I'm printing a nice frame for my girlie here and then placing the frame over her, and I don't know what to do with the background. It's a pity because I really liked this this reference here. But now it's not the time to worry. I have to keep moving and let's get on.
Well, as you can see here, the only way moving forward was starting over. I really needed that one night to sleep, to reflect on my new concept and to think everything through. After that pause, I made a decision to begin this portrait with the background instead of the face. My goal was to blend the hair seamlessly into the background so that everything would feel unified and harmonious. For this, I turned to granulating colors, and already in these first layers you can see the beautiful textures and super interesting effects that granulation creates. Just as I did in my first attempt, I painted the skin in the face with a blue underlayer. From there I began building up the tones gradually, adding yellows, reds, pinks, browns and greys until the different shades merged into a balanced and harmonious whole. But unlike before, my focus this time was on going even more abstract, painting with greater looseness and allowing myself the freedom to experiment. Since I had already decided to keep this portrait smaller, showing no hands, no upper body and no surrounding details, and even reducing the size of the face, I thought, why not take this opportunity to try something new? Layer by layer I continued adding color, and at this point I was painting the lips with a subtle, delicate reddish tone. Then I moved on to the hair, where I wanted to give myself full freedom to play. I started at the roots with the yellow, then moved into a vibrant rich pink, and toward the bottom the tones shifted into browns and cool bluish shades. The reason behind this choice was to capture the light source from coming from above. The warm tones as the top of the head reflects the warmth of the light, while the cooler blues in the lower shadows provide balance and contrast. In some places I even worked with violet, which I feel enhanced the overall effect. Looking at the result, I believe this concept came together quite successfully. Normally I don't use many granulating colors in my work, but throughout this painting process I truly feel in love with the granulation paints from Schminke Horrordam. They added a depth and unpredictability that I found fascinating. And as you will see in the final stage, I sprinkled a bit of salt onto the paper. That was intentional. I wanted to enhance the granulation effect even more, since I was working on hot pressed watercolor paper, which is naturally smoother than cold pressed paper, therefore softens granulation effects. The salt helped emphasize the texture and make the pattern stand out more clearly. I think I am done with the first step, the watercolor wash. I really like how the hair turned out. I think they are looking more beautiful than my first attempt when I tried to make it more realistic. When you look in different lighting situations, it seems like to be a little bit of golden, even though I haven't got any gold watercolor at home. So I think it's really cool. I think it's because of the granulating colors I have. I don't know what. I think it's Tundra Violet from Schminke Horrordam. And here, much closer to the forehead, I put in a little bit of yellow to give that glow and the lighting from above. So I think it turned out really cool. Now I am going to start with the colored pencil layer. I hope it's going well. Cross your fingers for me. And just as with my first painting, the next step is, of course, the colored pencil layer. For this stage I returned to the same trusted brands, Faber-Castell Polychromos, Caran d'Ache Luminance and Derwent Lightfast. These pencils have convinced me above all with their light fastness and brilliance of color. Another major advantage is their wonderful range of skin tones. For example, I find that the Faber-Castell line offers fewer skin tones compared to Caran d'Ache Luminance. which provides a much broader spectrum in this area. However, the price point as well as the firmness and hardness of the Faber-Castell Polychromos continues to impress me. For that reason, my watercolor and colored pencil works almost always end up being a mix of these brands, because each of them offers unique strengths. My goal with this layer, just as in my first painting, is to enhance the portrait further, adding refinement, definition and more detail. At the same time, I try to preserve the beauty of the watercolor paste. For instance, on the cheek, I intentionally let the delicate watercolor layer remain visible, allowing it to shine through, rather than blending everything completely smooth. It is equally important to me to preserve the wonderful hair structure that I achieved with the granulating watercolors. I really fell in love with that texture, and I didn't want to lose it under too much pencil work. For that reason, I mainly reinforced it with just a few outlines here and there. I also took time to work on the eyelashes. I absolutely love painting and drawing eyelashes. To me, when the lashes are complete, the portrait immediately looks more finished, more harmonious, almost as if it has reached its full expression. In this piece, I choose to emphasize the lashes a little more than in my reference photo. It was a conscious creative decision because I felt it suited the mood of the portrait best. And that, to me, is an important part of the process, making artistic decisions that move the portrait forward, even if that means deviating from the reference image. The reference is a guide, but the artwork ultimately has to find its own life.
This is what I have done for now. I didn't film the part of cutting out the painting and glue it on to the frame. I printed the frame a few days ago, and yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, but I'm not finished. It's going in the middle. I'm cutting out the inside, doing another of these sheets of paper onto the back side. I am putting on, first of all, magic cards. As you might know, but probably don't, I am a huge Magic the Gathering fan, and I do play it, quite often. And I have here the 5 main colors. The basic island, the basic forest, the basic plains, the basic mountain and the basic swamp. And I thought I'm going to put them here, 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 here. So every second panel. And then on the other 5 panels I am going to do some scrapbooking. I think that's called. I never have done this before, so it's my first time. I have this here, some cute DIY cut book paper things. Then I have stickers, paper, more paper, flowers, flower paper, and some sakura leaves. I don't know what I'm going to use. Oh, I have here some decorative gems. I think, it's okay. And washi tape. I bought it a few days ago. Let's see what I can accomplish. I don't know. I have a little bit of a plan, but I think my other plan was so much cooler. But it's okay. It's okay. I can move on. So, and I really like this so far. Yeah.
Here, as you can see, I'm just beginning with the drawing. My aim at this stage was to design on regular printed paper something resembling an antique frame, or at least the shape of one. I didn't use a reference for this. I simply followed my intuition and created what I felt would look good. Inside the frame, I divided the space into 10 panels or sections. Once I had finished the sketch, I cut it out from the printer paper and transferred it onto my 100% cotton watercolor paper. I must admit, it hurt a little to start cutting into that paper. It's not just the outer parts that get trimmed away, but also the entire interior. And as some of you might know, this paper isn't cheap. So yes, my heart did bleed a little during the process. But then I thought, why not reuse the inner section instead of throwing it away? That way, I could use it as a surface for my collage. And that's exactly what I ended up doing, because it felt like such a waste to discard it and be left with nothing more than a beautiful but very thin frame. After preparing the frame, I began painting over it with watercolor, using rich yellows and orange to give it the appearance of gold. In the final touches, I even add gold glitter, which gave the frame a luminous shimmer. To preserve the finish, I sealed everything with a gouache and watercolor fixative spray. And then came my favorite part, the magic part. Since 2019, my partner and I have been passionate players of Magic the Gathering. We started with the set Throne of Eldraine. Back then we played with 60 card decks, but now we almost always play Commander with 100 cards. Usually there are 4 of us at the table, and the games are always so much fun. I truly love it. My favorite Magic color is black. I'm very much a black player, often combined with other colors. My favorite decks are vampires or sacrifice decks, especially ones with life gain and drain. That style of play suits me perfectly. But I do have one very sneaky deck, a mono blue one. And for those of you familiar with Magic, I can imagine you might already be rolling your eyes. Yes, it includes counterspells. And yes, I play it in the very controlling way that blue is famous for. If you don't manage to take me out early in the game, then by the end it usually becomes very, very difficult to win against that deck. Anyway, enough about Magic. If you'd like to chat more about it, please leave me a comment. I'd be more than happy to talk about Magic anytime. Back to the artwork. I cut out the Magic cards and glued them onto my watercolor paper, trimming everything neatly once again. Here you can see me attaching all the pieces together. For the areas without Magic cards, I masked off the edges with washi tape, so the tape itself became part of the process. Then I added more details to make the whole composition feel more harmonious. My goal wasn't to let Magic cards dominate as the main focus, but rather to combine them with other elements. More in the spirit of scrapbooking, which was the original idea behind the rules of this project. Finally, I backed the frame with black paper to create an additional border, and then I glued the frame into the center of the piece. From there, I went on to complete the finished portrait. And that's where we'll pick up again in just a moment.
So guys, I am going to show you the new painting. I think, considering I never ever have done collage before, it looks really cool. I hope it fits Lioba's criteria and what she's asking. I really like it. I think if I could go back, I would twist her face a little bit different, but that's only a minor change. And yeah, I have to give credit for those amazing Magic the Gathering cards. They look... I love Magic so much. And yeah, guys, if you like this video, please consider to like, share and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever and whenever you are watching this video. Thank you so much. I hope we are going to see us next time. Bye.